We're about to hit the halfway point in today's broadcast for week number 2 of Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League, and we definitely, Flea, have a clash of playstyles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Av3k, the man who coined Av3k aggression all those years ago, is going up against CNZ, someone who can play, or usually plays, a lot more defensively and passively, right?
I mean, the term that comes to mind is the unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a player that's so famous for being just all in your face all the time, and then CNZ, who isn't afraid to just slow things down to a snail's pace.
Yeah.
And it's always great from a viewer's perspective to just see those kind of events unfold. You know,
Yeah.
you can just get into the minds of how both players approach it and how they play around each other. Av3k, similar to Hron, unfortunately, had quite a rocky road in Stage 1.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it feels like tonight's broadcast so far has shown us that players that we weren't really looking at too much in Stage 1 have really started to step it up in Stage 2. And now there's an opportunity to see if Av3k is going to be able to repeat things, and maybe he's going to be able to take things to the next level as well. We know the Prince is possible of greatness. He's had great success in certain events historically, just not so much in the Pro League. There's an opportunity for him to turn things around, and now. But CNZ, I think that's quite the opponent to go up against to see if your aggression's going to pay off.
Oh yeah, and this is a very important match for both of these players, right? Because actually, as I mentioned near the beginning of the broadcast, CNZ has actually overtaken Av3k in the global rankings, meaning that it's Av3k who might face a relegation match if things continue this way, so he definitely has to bring something to the table now, and that definitely has something to do with the results from last week. CNZ very convincingly beating Base 3-0, his first match in the second stage as a newcomer to the scene, and what does he do? He just knocks out Base, a clean 3-0. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Av3k went down to Razy, I believe, 3-0 as well, so he's got a lot to make up for.
But if you're in a position where one player has, in some ways, more to gain, I know points are very important early on for everybody, but if you're in Av3k's position, there's almost a bit more pressure on his shoulders, and in a competitive setting, does that start to make a difference? We have got CNZ up next, and he's just, for a newcomer to the Quake Pro League, the fact that he's now been able to just rock up and start overtaking players that have been here since day one, that's actually quite a message to send. It's something that other players definitely have to be a little bit fearful of, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the most flashiest player, he's not the one that most people will immediately think of, you know, when you compare him to the likes of Cypher and Cooler, but the man definitely has got skills. And as I already mentioned earlier, it's actually CNZ who beat Av3k last year at a major LAN, so clearly he might have an upper hand.
Now, times have changed since then.
Yeah.
It's a variation, it's a new version of the game, it's a new duel, right? Quake Pro League is entirely, 2019 has been time limit duel. The way things used to be. And, you know, both these players have experience playing in time limit. It's the bread and butter of Quake, for crying out loud. But what I think is, if times have changed, have they changed for the better for Av3k? And maybe this is Av3k's opportunity to get back up on that in effect. Or has the gap between the two players simply grown further apart in CNZ's favour?
Either way, this is going to be a very interesting matchup, as you said, right? Both players tend to gain and lose a lot, very close in terms of score, and as you mentioned, clashing playstyles from the first till the last seconds. That's what we're expecting to see.
Well, we have more to go over right now as the picks and bans are ready to see. Now, we're actually starting with something which is potentially quite aggressive. Corrupted Keep up first. BJ was removed straight away. It is one of the champion's strongest maps, so removing him makes total sense. But it's Galena versus Ison. And then up next, Molten Falls was CNZ's pick. He's going in with the Sorlag, and then the Visor is the opponent. And then final map, we're going to see Strog and Pika come out to play for another time versus the Doomslayer, which was CNZ's pick.
Yeah, pretty standard picks. I would say we're getting the Ison after all on Corrupted Keep, typically a map on which the deployables, such as the totems and the turrets, are relatively, or more so than relatively strong. And then on Molten Falls we've got Visor. It's a larger map. You've got so many good angles you can manage to land those rails from, so the piercing sight can be so valuable there. And on the other hand, CNZ is just going to be flying around the map on that oh so fast lizard, Sorlag. And then to top things off, at the very end, we will be getting Awoken, Strog, as we've seen time and time again, a very strong champion for this map. But of course, so is Doom, right? The double jump, so much mobility, so many nice little jumps you can manage with it. Both very strong picks.
I'm just looking at these picks and I'm just thinking in my head how things could potentially go. It's going to depend on shape on the day, as it always does. But with CNZ just going into Stage 2 with some of the highest levels of momentum, the fact that not only was he able to qualify in Italy in pretty damn convincing fashion, he's going into the weeklies looking, you know, just as good, if not better, than some of the competition that he's going up against.
Yep.
Now, we have to talk about the pressure that is on Av3k's shoulders. You know, the fact of the matter is, he was struggling in Stage 1,
yeah,
and he's now going up against someone that has beaten him in tournament before.
Mm-hmm.
And not just anyone that's beaten you, someone that is riding one hell of a wave going into Stage 2. So Av3k, more than likely, he's able to rise to the occasion. He's highly experienced, highly talented, and I don't think it's really something that's going to worry him too much. But it's always there. You know, the pressure is on Av3k's shoulders more than it is CNZ's going into this set.
Yeah, and that is definitely going to worry him quite a bit, as well as some of the other players on both sides, because especially when it comes to EU, right? First stage, you had Garpy and Spardy, and from Quake on outwards, I mean, it was pretty clear that they were really the ones that had to fight to stay in the league. They were at the bottom from the very start. But right now, Stage 2, who do we have seen added? We've got Cypher, we've got CNZ, excellent players, and that's going to be a lot more difficult, put a lot more pressure on the players, such as Av3k, who are right now around the middle, to not fall down to those bottom two spots. And that's what's at stake right here as we're jumping in on Av3k's point of view.
The Prince versus the Drill Sergeant. Av3k. Watching him now with that Ison pick. Already trying to kind of just get that initial damage. He knows where CNZ is, and this is one of those positions where, you know, fundamentally there's only so many ways you can run away. CNZ taking the opportunity to retreat, get some of that damage. But, yeah, there's that totem. We all heard it. Av3k not really in a position to get rid of it just yet. He has bigger fish to fry as the fight's going to break out. CNZ, in 36 seconds, scores that first frag.
Yep.
An Uncorrupted Keep. That can snowball quite quickly, especially now Heavy's been taken. Mega has been collected, but Av3k, fresh off the spawn, he's only really going to have a machine gun to take the fight with. He's been able to pick his positioning quite well. But he's taken a lot of LG, and the LG is starting to hurt significantly.
I'm surprised that Av3k is getting out of that situation, but maybe, yup, spoke too soon. CNZ will hunt him down and finish it off, and know exactly where he is as Av3k spawns so close to the totem, and again, he's in just such a bad spot. A dead end manages to bring CNZ down to just 23 points of health, though. Av3k, can he find a major item of the spawn and maybe make something happen?
It was perfect timing on the small pickups too, as CNZ disengages and gets more than a regular stack back up and running. Av3k likely to be sitting near the Heavy, so he knows he's going to have a lot of armor to face off against if a fight breaks out. But we've instantly, in the space of, 1.5 minutes, put CNZ in control, where he has a lot of health to retreat to if he wants to. Obviously, Galena's passive giving her faster cooldowns on the totems every time she collects health is going to matter a great deal on a map like this, where there's health bubbles for days.
Yeah. CNZ really trying to keep Av3k there for quite some time, because he knew that his opponent just didn't really have the same weapons to work with. That final rocket just barely missing his target, but that was an excellent engagement from CNZ, because he knew based on where Av3k spawned that he just couldn't have all the weapons that he needed. Meanwhile, CNG, very comfortable, is the one who has still been alive from the very start, so he could just stay back and pellet his opponent with so much damage. And right now things... I was going to say are starting to steamroll a little bit, but nope, a little trade, and this might end up favoring Av3k, even though CNZ took the major item right there. It's a race for Heavy.
Av3k has the high ground, but that high ground means he's going to have to give up Heavy unless he puts himself in a terrible position. He's taking some damage with the heavy machine gun, finally gets rid of one of those totems, but once more, that rocket juggle, far too severe. And he's going to pick up another frag. 6 frags in under 3 minutes! Almost got one of those fat mid-airs at the same time. And it would have just gone from bad to worse. Alright, pushed away a little bit with the LG, pushing CNZ to a range you can't really take a fight. And
out of nowhere! Av3k just with the fly-by shotgun. definitely not out of the fight just yet. He knows exactly where CNZ is. LG on LG. Av3k is going to be the one to come out on top of that engagement. There we go. CNZ drops down right onto that LG. And Av3k looking for a spawn frag. Won't find it, but still, this is promising. The pole is showing some signs of life.
That's the scary thing about those totems, right, is that in the middle of a fight, you can't really prioritize them, because that one rocket you put towards a totem is a rocket that should be going towards the person you're against. It's only when you've disengaged after getting a frag, looking for some more, get some good LG. CNZ able to retreat, though, thanks to so much of them. Av3k very weak indeed.
Oh!
And no! Mega in sight, but that defensive rocket, such a good shot. It's going to give him a frag that he desperately needed, but he's still at risk of being refragged. He's going to be very, very careful here.
Yeah, my god, 11 points of health, and he lands. He's actually pushed CNC off the Mega for a moment right there. But by deciding to land on that little side wall, he just takes a second too long and will go down in the end. But still, this is good for Av3k. He has, at least for the time being, stamped the flow of frags coming his way. But he's got to hang on to that as well.
Yeah, so far, Av3k, he's had some signs of life, and CNZ has to respect that spawn. You know, it's easy to think, hey, he's stuck in a bad position. He's still got the nail gun. And that'll absolutely melt your health down if you get caught in a good rhythm. Stuck in too much of a straight line, and before you know it, you've given up a frag before you've even realized it.
Yep. 20 damage apiece. Those heavy nail guns, that is going to deplete your stack almost instantly. So CNZ has got to give respect where respect is due. Now he's got a very good position right here, center of the map. Mega is the next item to be spawning, and it's right behind him. So if CNZ can hold this position, he knows Av3k doesn't have the lightning gun yet. He knows his opponent is still looking for some items, but there we go, Av3k taking the bottom route. And will actually be able to steal Mega without taking all that much damage. This is good for the Polish player.
There's 4 frags to even make a difference so far.
Oh!
Uh-oh! That could have gone pear-shaped. Might have already have gone pear-shaped in hindsight, because he took so much damage. Now Av3k, he's well aware of what's just happened here. He's now making the chase. And here's that aggression that we all know and love. But is it going to be enough? Yes, it will. It's the rocket.
CNZ's like second rocket aimed at that turret just was a little bit too much to the right, so it kind of missed, and he thought it would have been dead, but it definitely wasn't, and so he took quite a few of those 15 damage shots. Here we go, CNZ again really low, but he's got that totem to stack up. Heavy will definitely help, but that rocket! He steps right in front of it. Av3k making a comeback happen.
It's this whole idea of just never give up, right? In these situations where it may look really bleak at the very beginning, on a map like this where you can snowball so heavily, pushed out of the window, that's actually bad news, because it means he's pushed too far away from the Mega. He has the small health bubbles, yeah, sure, but that one bit of LG pushing him out the window meant that CNZ was going to completely free take that Mega, and it's been able to even things out a little bit. The question's going to be the light armors that exist on the map. That's going to be Av3k's objective. He's sitting around just in case it appears. Now it finally is, but by that point, CNZ has a much bigger stack. That turret is going to give the information. The fight can break up. Av3k has the advantageous position. The high ground's always going to help you out in a rocket fight. And going to be used a little bit to keep him alive. And I think as much damage as he can after the Mega appears, but not enough to make him worry yet. Can he do damage right before Heavy appears? He has no choice but to give it up again, because he knows he's got no armor. And when you've got no armor with someone that's hitting really strong LG and other damage, you have to worry about it.
Yeah. Av3k's positioning, I feel like, or at least like his positioning during fights has been extremely good. That previous engagement, that Mega, just the way he dodged the shots and was able to pull out quite a bit of damage still. I mean, that really shows that he's a very experienced player, but oh no! The miracle rocket landing just below him on that little ledge.
And the leg just landing next to him near Heavy.
Yeah.
Just high leg. How's it going? But what's that? The question is, what does that mean for CNZ? He's got full control. Both items. Looks for a mid-air. Doesn't really matter though, because, I mean, very little damage was returned. CNZ's in great shape. He is going to get the spawn near Nail, so at least he has that information, but who cares so far? Let's just get the control. Some wonderful damage from the Nails, actually. Plays his cards right, might get it!
Oh, yeah.
What a
1
shot.
point of health.
Die hard.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, Av3k has to start making plays like that, right? He has 2 minutes left. He was 4 frags behind. He's got to get a little bit desperate right now and just take these kinds of fight. And he's lucky that it ended up going his way. Of course, a calculated move, but still that 1 HP that he had to his name was all it took for him to win that fight. But right now he's gotta be careful. He still only has 2 minutes to get another 3 frags.
Turret's gonna get deployed again just to try and cause some distractions, get some extra damage on deck. Doesn't matter at all, unfortunately. Knocks him through the teleporter, and oh my word, the combo straight through the teleporter. That's so much damage, and it's that classic case. You now have to retreat, you have to restack, and that takes time. And when you've got a minute and a half to get 4 frags, time isn't your friend.
Yeah.
Stopwatch.
But the player whose friend time definitely is at this point is CNZ. All he has to do is stay alive, and he can even die 3 times and still win this matchup. And with just a minute left, I'm sure he'll just switch to a defensive playstyle, prioritize resources over frags, and just try to run down the clock. Av3k is gonna push in and get another frag though. Still possible. 1 minute, 3 frags on a map as small as this. There we go, that's gonna be the first one, surely. Av3k,
Right.
first frag.
And that was such a good start. Even the frag before this one where he was chasing him towards Tribolt room, and he was well aware he's taking the most immediate escape route. He's not even interested in going where he knows he's going to be. Heads him off on the other side and just delivers that final blow. Because it's just, if you are this famously aggressive player, you're used to being able to really chokehold people and force them into a position where they might have a chance, but you just know which avenues to take. However, defensive rockets doing a lot of damage. Super shotgun to finish the job. And I think that one frag might have sealed the deal here.
Yeah.
Av3k needed that. He needed to get the frag, he needed to survive, because now he's got less than 20 seconds left to get 3, no longer possible.
It actually went wrong in the red room. Av3k was chasing CNZ into Mega, right? And CNZ, after having just spawned, all he had was the super shotgun, but he made it work because Av3k was chasing him, and CNZ knows exactly where he's going to be, so he can do so much damage with that super shotgun and then put down the totem. And then he's just sitting there around the corner, and he says, Av3k, you want to come? Are you sure you want to do this? Turn the corner, I'm waiting with a shotgun, you know it, I know it. And Av3k just had to retreat, burn so much time, and that was what gave CNZ the win in the end.
But on Corrupted Keep, it's you can be defensive on this map. There was, when you look at the way the two players are approaching it, yes, CNZ was being aggressive when the time was right. By no means are any of the players in this league one-trick ponies. They're famous for playing a certain way, but it's not the only way they play.
Right.
Corrupted Keep was Av3k's pick. This was the map to try and, I think, shut down or put a spanner in the works for people that like to be very reserved. And those kind of small maps can sometimes give you a better chance of doing that. Didn't quite go his way. He lost his map pick. But part of that was CNZ. It was the rocket placement. The rocket placement to shut down Av3k the moment he tries to actually establish some kind of fight in his favor. And then CNZ, he smells blood, he knows he's got a spawn, he's going to kill you anyway. It doesn't matter how he's playing. If he's nearby and you've just spawned and he's confident he can get the fight, he'll just take it. Yeah.
And what you just mentioned is actually something that we saw in the previous series between Dewey and Genic, right? Dewey playing his super passive and defensive game for the first 2 maps, managing to do so successfully, but then when Corrupted Keep came around, it was actually completely the other way, because it allowed Genic to play a much more aggressive playstyle. But this time around, even that didn't work out for Av3k on this map. Oh wow, what a beauty. We didn't get to see that one from CNZ's perspective earlier, but that was one nice frag. And this is also a good one, the long-range rocket, CNZ dodging right back into it. This map definitely didn't have a shortage of nice frags.
Definitely not. And it's almost like that's the nature of Corrupted Keep, but the rocket's coming out to play 100%, and this was the moment Av3k really headed him off. He knows he has the stack. He could take a direct to that point and it doesn't matter. And this was the signs of life. This was the chance. This was absolutely the chance, but the damage that was distributed there, like right there, he's forced to back away and then try and make something happen. But that one rocket that just set up an unsurvivable position for Av3k. It goes to show how much of a difference one single shot can make to the entire map.
Yeah, and look at that. This is something you see very, very rarely. One player not only having more mega and heavy pickups, but also small armor ones, and by what a degree as well. And this really shows that it was a very volatile matchup. A lot of damage, as you can tell, 2.1k versus 1.5k on a small map like this. Not bad at all, but still, CNZ just had control. CNZ managed to resources better, and when he took the damage, he was able to get himself stacked up quicker than his opponent.
Av3k's frags mostly came from, and I think these pickups and these statistics kind of reflect that. A lot of his frags came from daisy chaining.
Yeah.
Where he's able to get one frag, gets a wonderful read or play on the spawn, picks up another one, and it was in short bursts. But eventually, CNZ was able to kind of like just retake control of the map, and a lot of his frags were kind of just steady.
Yeah.
You know, keeps the control, fight breaks out, wins fight, rinse, repeat. Like, he got a few frags on spawn, because I think that's the nature of Corrupted Keep. But when Av3k had a chance, it was in those small bursts every single time.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And next map is going to be interesting, because this one was already a pretty explosive way to start off this series. And yeah, who knows what the future holds. Av3k, I mean, he really doesn't want to drop a 3-0 today. Right?
I think he can't. Surely he just can't afford to.
No, he absolutely can't, because if he does, then CNZ will pull so far away from him in the leaderboards that I worry about Av3k's future. But still, this was just map 1, plenty of room to make a comeback happen. Let's not speak out of place just yet as we start this one off on CNZ's.
Sorlag, we've seen what this champion can do on Molten Falls. She's got the stack, she's got the mobility. She has all the abilities that she needs to really just smother you on those really important pickups. That said, Av3k, the visor pick is going to give him that constant information, and that should by all accounts be a piercing sight rail, because he caught him around the corner right as he went through there. CNZ returning the favour. Av3k doesn't want to peek this one too hard, but he has to try and get some damage, because here comes a very angry Sorlag, full speed ahead. That's going to put Av3k pretty far down, and he knows he's not going to have a lot of health. He has the armor, yeah, but the next time they clash, it's likely CNZ is going to have way more of a stack advantage. If CNZ hits even more of these rails too, yeah, Av3k's going to be a little bit, it's an uncomfortable situation to be in. So many of these small pickups would have been gone. You got to wait for them to come back.
And of course, let's not discount the inherent stack differences, right? Because we've got a Sorlag heavy champion going up against Visor, a medium one. So Sorlag by default already can have a much higher armor stack than her opponent, and that is really helping CNZ out right now. Because if they're gonna trade the rails, it will essentially take Av3k one more shot to land to secure the frag. Even though he has got a pretty sizable stack right now, CNZ is definitely looking not worse for wear.
But I feel like in turn, this is why we can see Av3k being very careful. He knows the matchup that he's up against, and he knows if a fight happens that's not on his terms, it's likely Sorlag's just going to be able to overwhelm you. CNZ, he set up shop on this mega side pretty much the entire map so far. And now he's looking to make a play towards heavy. Hits the opening rail, but it's more going to just calm down a little bit. Get the light, double back, try and catch Av3k as he's retreating. Looks like he might have the call. Lots of damage coming out from that nail gun though, Av3k. Much better shape so far. Even down to that little turn to the right. Like, you do not want to give up rail angles at all.
I mean, the rail would have killed him right there, so CNZ playing a careful game. Nice rocket from above, and you can tell that both players are playing a cautious game right now, especially Av3k, because he knows that if he surrenders as much as one frag, it's so difficult for him as Visor to chase down someone as fast and as stacked as Sorlag. So he's gotta keep that in mind and not give up anything, because he simply doesn't have the mobility to chase his opponent down.
Here comes CNZ though. Gets some springs the surprise on Av3k, but no damage. That's something you have to... That's going to feel bad for sure. It has given Av3k full control. Piercing Sight's just been activated, so he knows full well where CNZ is. And there's really cautious play coming up from CNZ right now.
Yeah. Heavy will be the next item to spawn. Av3k has the better positioning on it, but he's just going to wait it out a little bit, trying to catch some sign of his opponent, get a little bit of information. He's going to hear that armor pickup, knows exactly where his opponent is. He's got the high ground. CNZ unable to do much with the rockets because of that. Mega will be going to Av3k's, and is he just going to make a run for Heavy right away? Yeah. Av3k right now prioritizing stack, commanding the resources, because, I mean, clearly he saw what happened in the previous map, where he was absolutely outplayed in that department, and he's determined not to let that happen this time around.
If you can starve Sorlag of those all-important major items, combine the fact that you've got Piercing Sight to begin with, it goes back to what we talked about, taking a fight on Av3k's terms. He doesn't want to be surprised by Sorlag. Has to shout for those rockets. That one actually almost hit its mark. That was going to do a little bit of damage, kind of tickle CNZ a little bit. And he's been able to, at the very least, force himself back onto that. So he's not out of hope just yet. But this is to be honest, I think this is what we can grow to expect the rest of this map.
Yeah.
Neither player wants to overextend. CNZ very rarely will, it's just his playstyle. Av3k gets some good damage, looks for a little bit more, rockets, and half CNZ maybe not even expecting that push. It always feels like he was sticking around just to try and get some rockets out, and by the time he was sticking around, he's still there, springs the trap with the LG. We're so used to talking about piercing sight rails, but piercing sight LG when you're trapping someone, just as good, if not better.
Oh yeah, and now things are moving a lot more quickly. Av3k immediately getting not one but 2 frags on the board. Looking very solid right now, and CNZ at this point kind of stuck, does manage to actually get away without taking any damage, and even lands a rail of his own. Av3k right now on the back foot, he's got to be a little bit careful, but he still has the better positioning with that LG. CNZ is just gonna drop on it. Nice rail. Yeah, Mega up in just a second. Av3k is just gonna push through the acid, and it will pay off for him. Very courageous and brave decision, risky too, but he had confidence in his aim.
Av3k had the perfect timing on the Mega. He knew that if he was able to get some sufficient accuracy on the LG, he can take him out beforehand. It was a bang on the money with that play. 3-0 right now. We're over halfway through at this point. That missed rail, and especially that one.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little bit tender for CNZ. He really needs to kind of just get as many frags as he can at this stage. And as long as he's missing those shots, it's only going to be frustrating, if anything, because that was just on a silver plate. You just had to hit the shot.
Yeah, and that could have changed so much. Good read from CNZ though, expecting Av3k to be there, and what a trade in the end. I feel like that should have definitely gone CNZ's way, especially after just getting a perfect read and then landing that first rocket from above when Av3k was absolutely unprepared for it, but still, Av3k will be the one to benefit from this one, and again, I really like what he's doing. He knows that he can't chase Sordak down, so instead he's just cementing himself in a certain position, expecting his opponent to come from one way or the other, and then at the last possible moment, he whips out that LG and uses it very defensively.
He's also making those decisions without the use of piercing sight, which is very, very important. It shows that he doesn't need the piercing sight to make these plays. It just massively helps, or he can use that for other things. If CNZ's trying to run away or whatever it might be, it's just used for other reasons. But he's very weak right now. He's only just not railable.
Yeah.
Oh my god! As long as these rails continue to miss, finally he gets hit by one. Can he escape? Misses it by going for the right. CNZ convinced he was going to try and go through the door, but wasn't quite correct. And even now, Av3k has to be very careful. Nowhere near a full stack just yet. And at this point, is he actually going to fight for the Mega? Looks like he will do. Confident in his ability to take this fight, and immediately tries to disengage it. CNZ has been missing a lot of these rails, and it's been a huge part of allowing Av3k to escape in these positions.
I think that by now, Av3k is probably already starting to think about just running down the clock, right? 3 frags, 3 minutes. It's doable to stay ahead. There we go. He's actually still gonna push for the fight. CNZ, 4 points of health. Av3k, is he aware of just how low his opponent is, and will he be able to capitalize off of it?
He knows he's got just armors around. There's only a couple of health bubbles, which might not mean all that.
Yeah.
He prioritized getting the Mega, taking the trade-off.
Probably a good move, right? Especially since there's not much time left. Av3k is a few frags in the lead. He saw how his mismanagement of resources paid out the last map, so definitely playing a bit more of a conscious game this time around. Taking quite a bit of damage from the acid spit right there. CNZ so aggressive, will get the frag, but not without taking a pretty big rocket himself.
Had some initial information. Because there were no health bubbles around, Av3k wasn't able to stop the ticking from applying, which means that CNZ, even though he'd just spawned, he still knew exactly where Av3k was, which was in part, I think, why he just went so crazy aggressive off there first. Springs the trap with the LG, does not have the stack at all to survive that. And unlike last time, where CNZ had the ticking damage for information, it's not going to help him as much now, because Av3k is near Mega. CNZ knows that. They knows that when this next fight happens, that it's going to be outweighed. He has no choice but those rails. Unfortunately, that one missed rail was the beginning of the end. He had to hit that rail, and then he had to hit the second one, otherwise he was going to die due to cooldown alone. But that one missed shot, crazy how much can cost it, but CNZ, really, I'm very curious to see his rail accuracy, or to be honest, kind of lack of in this map. It's allowed Av3k so much real estate just because he's not worrying about losing stack.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now is a situation we come across time and time again, and it is when time is running out and the pressure starts building, the player who's trailing in points just has to make something happen, and CNZ has had to play a very aggressive game He
It's
will
possible.
find himself. It's absolutely possible. 3 frags in a 1 minute. He's got the speed for it. He's playing sword-like, but he's gotta still be careful for the Av3k traps that have worked so well this matchup. So good those rockets are. And CNZ has to take a step back. He cannot push this anymore.
And we say it time and time again, just as relevant now. All Av3k needs to do is just keep CNZ behind.
Yeah.
CNZ, even if he knows he has to press the advantage and make something happen, he still has to disengage unless he's going to give up a frag. He has to get that stack back up, and it just wastes time. Look at how much time CNZ lost just to try and get a stack back up that he can chase with. And now, I mean, I think he's reached that point now, unfortunately. That one fight where Av3k just hit Miracle Rocket 3 times in a row and completely shut down CNZ has now allowed a map tie to take place. So it's going to be 1 map apiece so far. It's now 1-1. We are going to determine who wins on this final map pick. And considering Av3k needs points, this guy desperately needs points.
Yeah.
Very important that he got that map point.
Yeah, I'm very happy actually to see a game that stays 1-1, right? So far, every single matchup that we've seen today was already settled in the end by the second map. But this time around, it's 1 for the one player, 1 for the other. This final map will decide it all.
Hard to think about how it's going to go, though.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, the aggressive player's map pick was lost to the defensive player.
Yeah.
And the defensive player's map pick was lost to the aggressive player. And that wasn't Av3k aggression, though. That is absolutely what it needs to be pointed out, is that we talk about player styles, but it is not the one and only way they approach duel. They are players of many talents. It's why they're here. It's why they're in the Quake Pro League in the first place. This is the collection of the greatest Quake players in the world.
Yeah.
And if you are of that standard, it's because you can play many styles. You will just favour one because it fits you best. But in that case, Av3k just set up shop. The piercing sight made a massive difference for constant information. He maintained a very significant stack advantage for the majority of that map. And, I mean, the aggressiveness came out when it was time to go in for the kill. And CNZ just couldn't escape. Stack didn't matter.
I mean, and that just speaks volumes about how experienced and skilled of a player Av3k really is, right? Because the first map, what was our main point at the end? It was that CNZ won it on the resources. He had more megas, he had more heavies, and he had a lot more small armors too. What happens in the next match? Av3k immediately changes his playstyle and goes way more for item control. We saw it time and time again. Av3k could have pushed in for a fight, could have been more aggressive, but instead he decided, you know what? I'm just gonna go for the mega. I'm just gonna go for the heavy. I'm in a comfortable position right now, and I'm just going to leave things be and just make sure that you can't get this. And it's paying off very nicely for him. So it's going to be interesting to see how we will approach this third and final map.
We start to see things really... that one moment a trade occurred right near heavy.
Yeah.
That was a trade that CNZ very much did not want. Because if he survived that fight, there were plenty of resources around in like small health bubbles and right near rail, where you could kind of take the fight and then just heal back up a little bit. And then, hey, it would have been so much less extreme than it finally became. But fundamentally, Av3k just playing multiple styles worked well on Molten Falls.
Yeah.
I really think he just played the matchup incredibly well at the same time. One thing we have to bring up, though, was CNZ's lack of rail shots.
Yeah.
He went for plenty of shots. He was in a position a couple of times where that rail would have got a frag, and then there would have been barely any difference in between the frag score. But because those rails just, most of the time, didn't hit their mark, Av3k just had so much space to disengage, to get his stack back up. And then, hey, we're just straight back where we started. CNZ just missed way too many rails.
And in the grand scheme of things, just one extra rail hit landing could have changed the entire outcome, right? There was just that one situation, I think you and I, we both clenched, heading towards railgun. Av3k was railable, CNZ's over at rockets, and he misses the first shot, and then Av3k just jumps in a straight line into the railgun room, and CNZ just whiffs the second shot as well, and that were both kill shots that he just was unable to deliver on.
Well, we know that even if this is the highest level of play, you cannot have a perfect game every time. There's always going to be a map where one of your weapons, because the weapons all function so differently, right? There's always a chance that one of your weapons is just not going to work the way you want it to in one of the maps. And I really think for CNZ, unfortunately, that was the case for Molten. That was in the past, though. We're going into Awoken, our third and final map, to determine who's going to take this with a 2-1 victory. Points at stake matter a great deal for Av3k. He needs this win, and he's going in with a strong to try and get the job done.
and immediately you see that Pickers come out within the first 30 seconds of the match, something I very much enjoy seeing, because last time around Dewey versus Genic, Picker was completely underused in the end, so I'm very happy that Av3k is taking a more aggressive approach with the little robot, and is gonna try and make that work.
I think can we expect anything less of Av3k though? That's the play style. And Awoken, very good for it.
I also want to point out that Av3k actually has run out of ammo for his Tri-Bolt, which is something you don't see all that often. The man has been playing a very cautious and defensive game so far, just trying to repel his opponents by shooting those bolts around. Those are two excellent rails from Av3k. He knows he's got a bit of an advantage right now and he wants to pressure it. Can he find one more shot? He's got to be careful. Actually, he does. Unfortunately for him, he lands the shot before the Mega gets picked up, which means that his opponent can instantly just stack right back up.
He's in a good position though, where there's plenty of stuff to retreat to if he needs to. I know neither player are interested so far in giving up anything. Going straight through the teleporter and trying to be as fast as possible. Here comes Pika. Kamikaze had the right idea to go round, but gets taken out before anything can happen. And this is, right near LG room. There are plenty of pickups to collect. So Av3k going back up to a pretty average stack. CNZ has a better positioning though, and it's going to be very hard for him to lose this fight with the stack that he's looking at, even with that rocket. CNZ does manage to pick it up. Av3k does kind of really as much damage as he physically could in that exchange.
Yeah. I think Av3k's plan right there was to stay on this central platform, as you call it, T, and just expect the double jump across and just knock his opponent right back down with LG. And he read it correctly, but he was a little bit too late on getting that weapon out and ready, and so CNZ was able to just make it across anyways and then start piling on the damage without Av3k really being in a situation to do a lot about it.
Double jump getting put to perfect use though. Av3k, a little bit of a hard to think why he was stuck in that position. You're against a Doomslayer. You know the double jump is a threat. You can easily cover that distance, and with nowhere to run, all it took was like 1 or 2 decent rockets and you mincemeat. But 2-0 for CNZ so far.
Yeah.
Av3k has to be very careful. Oh! Bit of a clash there. Neither player ready for them to fly around the corner at that speed. CNZ getting caught swapping weapons, so he's taking some damage. Doesn't matter though, because he has the positioning. He's all over the Mega. Every time a fight is breaking out near Heavy or Mega, CNZ is always there first, and it's making a huge difference.
Yeah, clearly, if you look at the stack differences right now, Av3k just barely any ammo to his, or armor to his name rather, takes a bad rail as well. Very vulnerable, and CNZ right now, for all the rails he missed on the previous map, he's making up for it right now. Landing some good shots, and Av3k is actually stuck down there. CNZ didn't even realize until he tried for the LG. There comes the Beaker, decent damage. But Av3k, unfortunately, unable to do much more simply because CNZ picked up Mega just before the robot connected.
He had the right idea, but CNZ had perfect timing.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have gone in for a risk like that, taking a fight, if he didn't know there was something to retreat to. In this case, it was that Mega that, even though Av3k, he had the right plan. It would have worked if the Mega just was a second late. CNZ just made the outplay, right? He just had the better timing. However, the rockets, both of which are going to miss their mark. Av3k has no choice but to go in. CNZ tries to retreat. Av3k chooses to maybe try and chase it down. I think he might have lost a little bit of information over where CNZ currently is.
Yeah, that was an excellent play from Av3k though. Perfect trap right there, and CNZ just had the wrong weapon out, trying to land some of these longer distance rockets, just not doing any damage, whereas Av3k is just pelting him with LG. Even though CNZ was the one to pick up the Heavy just before that engagement, it was Av3k doing all the damage, but look at the rockets! Rail will not connect. And both players pretty low right now. Are we gonna see a Pika rush? Here she comes. Nope. Can't quite make it to the end. That rocket though.
That rocket almost killed. With only 69 health. Right, the downsize. No choice but to see red. I really think if you're in the cooldown of Rail and you're going to guarantee your death, that Berserk was truly all CNZ could do to try and save his skin. And at the very least, just try and get some damage out.
And it's not as if you use the Berserk all that often, right? So you might as well go ahead rather than try and save it even longer after the 5-minute mark. Which still means that Av3k has half a match left for 2 frags. Absolutely doable. He just has got to cement himself some control and continue dealing out his damage.
Av3k, he's trying to take anything for free that he can, just in case the NZ goes towards Heavy. Sounds like it might be a bit of a trade. We'll see how he can get out. Yeah, CNZ is already at the safe distance, and that missed rail means that he's pretty healthy so far. Try and reposition as fast as possible. Stacks are pretty major for both players at the moment, but CNZ is the one that doesn't have to press the advantage. He can be patient if he wants to.
Yeah. This is a good play from Av3k though, just holding control of that center map area, because he knows that CNZ is kind of lacking when it comes to weapons. He's got the railgun, sure, but other than that, Av3k is definitely outgunning him for the time being. Unfortunately though, CNZ does manage to take away the heavy right there, and he breaks through, gets himself a rocket, maybe LG shortly as well. Out comes the Peeker. Decent damage.
But what it's really going to do, I think, is force CNZ away. He's put himself in a position, though. Watch out for those rockets! That rail almost hit its mark, and that would have stung a fair amount. CNZ caught by the LG, but those defensive rockets are looking so good. It's forcing Av3k into just once more weird position where he wants to make something happen. He wants to try and push, but if he constantly gets hit by rails like this, it's very tricky for him. And we've run out of rails.
Yeah.
You hate to see it.
Oh,
but the
what?
tri-bolt! Okay, let's go.
What a perfect read from Av3k right there, just expecting CNZ to be a little greedy, try and land that final bit of damage. And indeed, that was exactly what his plan was all about. And the tri-bolt, I mentioned it at the very start, Av3k had been using it aggressively, and clearly it's paying off for him in the long run.
It may have taken him a couple minutes to get one frag. Hang on, knocked into the air. Has to be really careful. He has to fight for his life, but he's so weak. CNZ is going to clean that one up. I was about to say, it took Av3k a couple of minutes to get that one frag, but it didn't matter as there was only one more to go. But if he has to concede a refrag in that position, then it's quite tricky. Pika going to collide with the terrain, unfortunately, so no damage dealt. CNZ picking an angle and just sitting to it. Does Av3k take the bait? He jumps in for it, knowing that the rail was a risk, but thankfully the shot's going to miss, so no damage dealt, as now he's retreating back. But every time he retreats, it's going to be in CNZ's favour for the time being. He's the one that sits on the 2-frag lead. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. That rocket is going to give him no information. No damage was dealt, so Av3k had no way of knowing he was there.
I must say, I'm not quite convinced by the movement skills that Av3k has had with the Peeker so far. We've seen him run into walls and fall short a fair bit, unlike real masters of the craft like the Hang, for example, who can pull off the most amazing spins and circles in midair. So Av3k might have to work on that a little bit more before adding this champion to his regular lineup.
We saw on this very map last week, against Av3k, if memory serves me right, with the Peeker on Awoken. It's just insanity through and through. There are players in the Pro League that have really mastered the Peeker, but Av3k, you know, a couple of instances it maybe looks like he's moving it in a wall on purpose to disengage, but sometimes it doesn't look like that. It looks like he's genuinely just missing the shot.
Yeah. And right now, 1.5 minutes left. CNZ has switched to a super defensive game already, isn't really leaving this area, unless right now to get himself some more rocket ammo, but Av3k trying to hold down that center of the map, but he's just not doing the damage that he needs. Time and time again, he's just not finding the crucial shots. Again, a missed rail, and several of those before this as well. And if you can't do the damage, then there's just nothing you're doing to threaten CNZ and to disrupt his comfort zone right now.
And as we've gone into that 1 minute warning, the slow play coming out again, Av3k, it's just taken him far too long to make things happen. And as he's having to get back up and get some health and stack back up to be ready for the next fight, CNZ's just kind of sitting pretty, doing this thing. Yeah. Listening out for the information. Doesn't even matter that he's being forced to run away here thanks to that wonderful rocket jump. And down near Banana there's going to be stuff to retreat to if he wants. Might not even need to though, that Mega's going to get picked up happily. And it's just time.
I don't know about the Peeker in those situations. I really don't, when there's so little time left. I mean, the best you can do is 75 damage, essentially. And what then? If it happens on the other side of the map, what are you gonna do by the time you get your main weaponry over there? It's too late. Oh!
If he gets a spawn
Can he
right
get
now,
the spawn frag?
He has to get it. There's no choice. But the delay. Delayed his spawn. That opportunity did not even present itself. He had the right idea, but CNZ, understanding that that's very likely how the next fight's going to go, and if he can prevent it any way possible, delay all day.
We saw for a tiny little flicker at the end, CNZ pop into view, but it was all too late. And unfortunately for him, Av3k will go down 2-1, and CNZ actually continuing his excellent run, first taking down base in the first week of Stage 2, and now adding Av3k to his kill list as well. Looking super solid.
Fundamentally, CNZ's just been smashing his way through this bracket.
Yeah.
And he's asserted dominance. He's put himself in a very comfortable position, and we've only just started Stage 2. That's the crazy thing, folks. This is week number 2 of Stage 2, and there's plenty more where that came from. And if you're able to establish early point amounts and you're already overtaking people that have been here since the first stage, it's just going to be continue what you're doing, and then who knows how much of a good seed he might end up with as we go into the next LAN. But on the opposite end of that, it's hard not to feel bad for Av3k, because he's such a fan favorite, and he has been for so many years now, and he's just having a rough time. That second map on Molten that he was able to take, he took it in extremely convincing fashion. He looked rock solid, but again, CNZ, as we went on to Awoken, was able to do what we knew he would. Like, those misses that he was making, they weren't very punishing.
Yeah,
because
no,
he gave himself such a lead. Who cares?
And meanwhile, on Av3k's side, unfortunately, so many misrays. Look right there, the click. I don't think it would have killed him, but in the end, he did get it with the tribal. But near the end, there were just so many missed railgun shots from Av3k.
That was good.
That was good that we got to see that from CNZ's perspective as well. Yeah. Got a feel for Av3k a little bit, though. So far, he really hasn't had the best run in the Pro League, and even though he's one of the most popular, one of the most beloved players there is, I really hope we get to see him do a bit better in the future.
We can see some more of those map stats. Control was heavily, really, I think, in the favor of CNZ. The heavy armor, it didn't really make much of a... The initial fights at heavy, it mostly came down to Mega when the fights were breaking out. Heavy was more whoever was in position. Both players did a great job of just getting in and out. There was only a couple of instances where a player that just took the heavy was kind of stuck in that choke point where, you know, hey, it's hard to escape, but at least we've taken it and denied it. The Mega was the real meat and potatoes of CNZ, staying stacked as often as he was.
Yeah.
He was very rarely having to retreat to other places. You know, it was an even split on those light armors. That's the nature of Awoken. You know, if both players are sharing a different half of the map, a light armor kind of exists almost both ways, but CNZ just looking as good as ever, Flea.
And just to illustrate that he managed to turn things around with the railgun, clearly 1,350 damage was his best weapon this time around, and that's showing something, right? After kind of messing up with it so often on Molten Falls, he really made it work this time around, even making it to his best weapon, whereas Av3k just really couldn't keep up with the pace of the rails.
There's a lot of stuff to take away as we go into these early stages, and for Av3k, it's that there's always hope. There's always hope that in the future weeks he's going to be able to just do better than he did before. The problem is the competition is much more fierce in Stage 2 than it was in Stage 1.
Yeah.
And if Av3k already had quite a rough time, I know the format was a bit different, and now, you know, Stage 2 we've entered a round-robin style, so there is always the chance that Av3k gets to be a little bit more refreshed, play against some people that maybe he didn't really play off against as much in Stage 1. Right. There's always stuff to take away, and there's potential for him to do better, but the talent pool has expanded significantly, especially for EU and CIS.
Yeah.
You know, Sparty and Garpy, they are top level players, but now CNZ and Cypher, it's a new age. You know, they're different beasts. They play the game entirely different. It's not the same stuff that we saw in Stage 1.
Yeah.
And if you had a hard time before, it might even be fair to assume that it's going to be even tougher now.
Yeah, and as we mentioned near the beginning, of course, with the point system having changed a little bit, the security that some of these players had after QuakeCon in Stage 1 is just completely gone right now, right? Players like Av3k, they did pretty well at QuakeCon, and they knew that, hey, Sparty and Garpy, they're relatively far below me, so I'm in a pretty good position. No more of that at all, right?
Yep.
The points are all higher, the stakes are higher, and at this point, CNZ has definitely overtaken Av3k in the leaderboard, so he has to step it up.
So for today, we've officially hit that halfway point. This is week number 2 of Stage 2 of the Quake Pro League. We're going to go set up our next few matches, but while we do that, we have an interview with Nosfer, so take it away.